She says, maybe we should stand back because we're not on our marks and they could see the light behind you.
Blake and Ryan right now.
It's interesting. So online, I feel like the public is overwhelmingly on Baldoni's side.
As counsel for Wayfair, just as from Justin's attorneys, James Heath, Steve Sarrett, Justin Baldoni, etc.,
solidified this lie from Baldoni's viewpoint that Blake Lively made.
The courtroom battle between Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively has reached a boiling point, with Baldoni landing a series of legal blows that have shocked Hollywood. What started as a heated dispute has spiraled into a full-blown lawsuit meltdown for Blake, with leaked footage, surprising legal twists, and a growing list of contradictions in Blake's claims. Baldoni is turning the tables, and the courtroom is feeling the heat. How did this all unfold? Why is Blake's legal team scrambling? And how did Baldoni manage to destroy Blake's case so thoroughly? Let's break down the latest dramatic developments in this explosive legal feud.
Including Blake Lively. If they find that she just was dishonest and lied on one single point of evidence in this case, in her testimony, the jury instruction says that they are allowed to discount her entire testimony. In other words, her testimony won't even count. And that is that's a harsh reality, because if the jury chooses not to listen to anything she has to say, she's the best witness in this case. Everything she's saying in her amended complaint is really from her. There's not a whole lot of documentary evidence we've seen to support the claims that are made in her complaint, like you see with Justin Baldoni's complaint, where there's extensive documentary evidence backing it up. So her testimony is super important in this case. And if you can show the jury that she's lied, juries don't like liars.
The first major blow came when Justin Baldoni's legal team leaked footage that directly contradicted Blake Lively's initial claims. This bombshell evidence forced Blake's team to amend their lawsuit in a desperate attempt to recover. Legal experts pointed out that the footage showed behind-the-scenes moments revealing that Blake's accusations were not as solid as she initially claimed. The last-minute changes to Blake's lawsuit came across as reactionary, further eroding her credibility and giving Baldoni the upper hand.
The first line, the first thing that's said is from Blake Lively. And what is it? It's a director note. She says, maybe we should stand back because we're not on our marks and they could see the light behind you. She said that. So it's really interesting that in her complaint, she's saying that he was talking to her not as his character, but as Justin Baldoni, when as soon as camera was called out, she's talking to him as Blake, trying to give a directive note. She started that, and he just followed her lead and explained, no, it's okay with the light behind me, it looks good, and so on and so on. Another really interesting thing about that moment is as he explains to her that it's nice for him to be in front of the light, and when he blocks it, he leans in and he gets really close to her ear, and he almost like whispers it to her very softly. And we might look at that and go, why did he say it like that? Why didn't he just tell her? And there's a very good reason for this. They're both very aware of the fact that we're only going to use the visuals of this, not what they're saying. So to get this shot, their body language needs to communicate. Ryle and Lily having this slow dance, he's trying to figure out what Ryle would do in this scene. So I think that it's very conceivable that with this back and forth, he would give her this peck on the forehead when she goes from here to turning her hand and holding his and relaxing into him. And the really big distinction that we really have to be mindful of at this point is the difference between her feeling uncomfortable and him objectively doing something to cause her to feel uncomfortable. Those are two different conversations, and a lot of people are having those conversations jumbled at the same time. So it's hard to invalidate someone, right? And say, no, you weren't feeling uncomfortable. We could look at some of this and go, it doesn't really seem behaviorally like she's uncomfortable, but maybe she's hiding it with some acting. That's possible.
Just when it seemed the case couldn't get more dramatic, a shocking twist emerged. Both legal teams brought forth conflicting evidence, but Baldoni's attorneys provided clearer documentation and stronger witness testimonies. Blake's attempts to challenge the evidence fell flat, with courtroom insiders noting that her team appeared visibly shaken. This turning point not only strengthened Baldoni's position, but also heightened public scrutiny on Blake's legal tactics.
I guess attitude towards Blake and Ryan right now.
It's interesting. So online, I feel like the public is overwhelmingly on Baldoni's side. And then we obviously just saw Blake and Ryan at the SNL 50th anniversary. And I feel like even in Hollywood, we're kind of seeing that even they didn't seem too excited with wanting to be next to him. I think who was it? Chevy Chase took a photo with them, and I think one other, Dakota from 50 Shades of Grey, she took a photo with them. But like outside of that, normally, Blake Lively has her Taylor Swift and their, girl posse that always is taking photos together, and we didn't see a lot of that.
Things took a turn for the worse when Blake refused to be deposed by Baldoni's legal team, allegedly citing the lawyer's aggressive questioning style as too mean. Her refusal raised eyebrows, with many interpreting it as an attempt to avoid facing hard truths under oath. Legal experts criticized the move, pointing out that a refusal to participate in standard legal proceedings rarely bodes well for the party under pressure.
Dear Judge Lyman, as counsel for Wayfair, just as from Justin's attorneys, James Heath, Steve Serrits, Justin Baldoni, etc., Melissa Nathan, etc., we write to advise the court of an issue that Wayfair parties wish to address at the upcoming conference on February 3rd. During a conference of the parties' counsel on January 30th, counsel for the Wayfarer requested the earliest possible deposition of Blake Lively. Counsel for Mr. Lively, Ryan Reynolds, stated their objection to the Wayfarer party's lead counsel conducting the deposition of Blake Lively. Specifically, the Lively party's counsel indicated that they object to Brian J. Friedman personally taking Miss Lively's deposition based upon unspecified statements made by Mr. Friedman. When asked to elaborate on the grounds for their objection, you don't get to pick the suitcase, Blake. And she really does think she's like, gets to choose which of the opponent's attorneys she gets to talk to. Like, is she gonna do this in the trial as well? Like, oh, well, I don't know, Judge, I don't like you. Can you change your outfit a little bit? This witness is a little aggressive for me. Maybe you can do it a little nicer. Like, what is she doing? I can't even believe it. Now, this may have been some legal tactic that her team was just trying to do to delay, maybe. And clearly, Justin's legal team wisely decided to call it out because it adds and goes to the image that Blake is seen as, which is entitled and completely out of her mind. The audacity and the entitlement of thinking that you can choose we're not going to be deposed by him. Now, if there was some personal history or something, I mean, he'd be thrown from the case.
Hoping to regain momentum, Blake's team released new court documents, but they failed to deliver the smoking gun her supporters were hoping for. While the documents reiterated earlier accusations, they lacked concrete evidence, making it difficult for Blake's legal team to substantiate their claims. This misstep was seen as another win for Baldoni, whose consistent presentation of verifiable facts continued to sway the court in his favor.
Breaking news, Blake Lively's team just filed their response to the Justin Baldoni lawsuit. Is it late? Well, this is rich. Blake Lively's team had all day to file their response and waited until the last possible second, arguably a minute late. Girl, are you still Googling how to win a lawsuit or what is going on? I haven't even had time to dig through it yet. But if you're just as unhinged as me and you want to read these documents, I've got the full zip file on littlemissjacob.com. If you also stayed up like a psycho refreshing the docket, drop your first impressions because something tells me they weren't sitting on a solid defense, just stalling. I'm not sure. Anyway, grab your popcorn, the PDFs, and let's see what excuses they're running with this time. You're welcome, besties.
Perhaps the most devastating moment came when Baldoni's legal team exposed contradictions in Blake's statements. By cross-referencing her past interviews, on-set agreements, and legal filings, Baldoni demonstrated that Blake's claims had evolved in suspicious ways over time. Observers in the courtroom noted how visibly flustered Blake's legal team appeared as Baldoni's attorneys tore through the inconsistencies.
Solidified this lie from Baldoni's viewpoint that Blake Lively made, and she lied in their minds about what occurred during that dancing scene because she wasn't aware that there was audio that would maybe explain and give some context to what was happening there. So of course she changes her in her amended complaint. She changes the view of it a little bit because she has to, because you can't contest the audio. So I would take the position, if I was representing Baldoni, that she lied. And if she lied, I just want to firm that lie up. I want to firm that lie up in deposition, and I want to firm it up multiple times in deposition in different ways. I want to firm it up when she's at taking the stand at trial. I want to impeach her with what she said in her deposition. If she contradicts that, I also want to impeach her with the actual audio. And then in closing argument, I want to be able to tell the jury.
Why is this lawsuit dragging on? According to insiders, it's because Blake is refusing to settle, convinced she can outmaneuver Baldoni. But with each passing day, it becomes more apparent that Baldoni's relentless pursuit of the truth is wearing her down. As legal fees mount and public opinion shifts, some of Blake's own supporters are urging her to cut her losses before it's too late.
Went into more detail. Speaking as someone, the Justin that I know isn't capable of doing the things that he's accused of doing because he truly sees himself as this feminist. But Blake clearly got grossed out. I honestly feel like it was the perfect storm of two opposing personalities. When Baldoni and Wayfair execs hold meetings, they often start by asking participants to go around the table and share something private, something that brings them joy and has nothing to do with their jobs or their career. In certain professional circles, like those of yoga instructors or doulas, this type of icebreaker might be welcomed, but among time-crunched agents, entertainment lawyers, studio execs, Blake Lively's, folks not exactly known for their touchy-feely ways, a gesture like this nature comes with risks. In my head, I was like, I'm sorry, are we at Cafe Effing Gratitude?
Initially, the public was divided, with fans of both celebrities taking sides. But as more damning evidence emerges, support is increasingly swinging toward Baldoni. Social media is ablaze with people criticizing Blake's legal maneuvers, accusing her of playing victim while being caught in contradictory statements. One viral post even joked, "Only a time machine can save Blake Lively from herself now," highlighting the widespread perception that her case is unraveling fast.
And he is giving Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds absolute hell. And people need to understand that this is a completely new ball game, a kind of an interesting Frankensteinian fusion of the legal world and PR that we have never seen before here, where now these lawsuits, the intention of these types of lawsuits now that we're seeing being filed with these $400 million price tag, so to speak. The intention isn't even to one day win in court, to win in litigation. It's to make a huge media splash and get evidence and arguments out in front of the public in a legal forum. Same studios that you are in a fight to the death with now. That guy, Steve Sarowitz, he's a fucking billionaire. And he evidently does not take too kindly to spoil the delusional actresses, narcissistic actresses, targeting his life's work and his blood, sweat, and tears, not to mention Justin Baldoni's and Jamie Heath's and the others who've been working with Wayfarer for years now. None of these people are going to just stand by, apparently, and let this spoiled, delusional, narcissistic actress.
Prominent attorneys reviewing the case have pointed out that Blake's strategy is flawed from the start. Her reliance on emotional appeals rather than solid evidence has placed her at a disadvantage. Baldoni's team, meanwhile, has focused on presenting factual evidence and clear timelines, which legal analysts say is the key reason he's winning this battle.
Usually in cases like this, what happens is the plaintiff files their claims. Then the defense is given the opportunity to ultimately move to dismiss. In other words, to say that even if taken as true, it's a motion to dismiss. 12b6 in federal court, motion to dismiss the claims for failure to state a cause of action. And that's generally what a defendant will do at the beginning of any case like this to see if they can knock out all of the claims or some of the claims. Oftentimes, a lot of defamation claims can be dismissed simply because there's not enough evidence. With even taking what the plaintiff alleges to be true, you simply cannot satisfy all of the elements that would be required to actually win at trial or to win on a summary judgment motion. So in the Baldoni case, we'll discuss what the various causes of action are, how they sort of tie into, the underlying facts.
Adding fuel to the fire, new claims suggest that Blake's team attempted to manipulate public opinion through selective media leaks and spin tactics. Baldoni's legal representatives called out these tactics in court, accusing Blake's side of distorting facts to sway the press. This revelation further damaged Blake's credibility, making it harder for her team to argue that she's the victim.
What is your take when you watch that of the power position of Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively dancing together? What did you take from that when you watched it?
I just thought he was acting. That was my perspective, because look, I'm not a behavioural expert, but from what I could see is that he sort of moved in and out of his role. And so, you know, when he says cut, you can almost see him change. However, you don't really see Blake Lively sort of coming out of her role as clearly. And we don't know what led up to that situation, because if we look at DB, and say if I was going to do a film.
In a surprising courtroom moment, Baldoni delivered a heartfelt testimony that resonated with many in attendance. His calm, collected demeanor stood in stark contrast to Blake's increasingly defensive posture. Observers noted that Baldoni's transparency and willingness to confront tough questions only strengthened his position.
No more entering Blake's trailer when she was not wearing clothing. No more comments about Blake's appearance other than in connection with the character and scene work. An intimacy coordinator must be present anytime Blake was performing a scene with Justin, and there would be no retaliation based on Blake's accusations of harassment. The studio agreed to all Blake's demands. On January 5, 2024, production resumed and was completed on February 9. The movie premiered in August 2024 and was a tremendous success. The film cost $25 million to make and grossed $351 million and suppressed negative content about Justin. Blake was portrayed as someone who involved her famous husband to create a power imbalance with the studio and a bully who had a bad reputation in the film industry. Justin indicated that he wanted Blake to be buried. In messages exchanged between PR specialists, they expressed concerns about writing down how they were going to destroy Blake, like they did not want to document something like that. Referring to Justin, one of them wrote, "He has to look at it as an information document for us to be armed with, that's all. Imagine if a document saying all the things that he wants ends up in the wrong hands." Despite these concerns, the social media plan moved forward. The campaign appeared to be effective. Blake was the target of negative articles and unpleasant comments.
With momentum clearly on Baldoni's side, Blake faces a tough decision: push forward with what's increasingly seen as a losing battle, or settle and attempt to salvage her public image. Legal experts say that unless Blake's team can produce new, concrete evidence, Baldoni's dominance in court is unlikely to waver. The next hearings will be crucial, but if recent trends are any indication, Baldoni seems unstoppable.
A woman that I had on my show here, actually, that had a bad experience with Blake Lively, Jamie, who had a bad experience with her when she was just 19 years old and she was an intern, and how that whole experience she had then, you know, you said could relate a little bit to what you see now of how she is creating, I don't know, that she has these triggers that we don't kind of understand. Can you explain a little bit about that, what you talked about there?
So what we've got to look for is patterns of behaviour, and when someone starts their career,
what started as a contentious lawsuit has turned into a complete meltdown for Blake Lively. Justin Baldoni's methodical approach, paired with damning evidence and calculated legal strikes, has shattered the foundation of Blake's case. From leaked footage to exposed contradictions and failed legal maneuvers, it's clear that Baldoni is winning this war, both in court and in the court of public opinion.
I mean, Blake, the writing doesn't look good from my perspective and from what I've read in the legal documents on both sides. But I mean, unless she has some sort of smoking gun that she's been hiding for the last couple of months, it's not looking too good from her. And I think even with Hollywood kind of not really wanting to pose with them or come out and publicly support them like they did initially, you know, now that he's come out with his side of things, people kind of seem to be distancing. So I think she's losing the audience for sure.
And if there is a smoking gun, you'll be the first person to know about it if you're tuning into your podcast. Where can people watch that? Where can people find that and get more information?
Yes, so it live streams Monday through Friday on YouTube, and it's available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere else you get your podcasts.
As Blake's legal team flounders and public support wanes, many wonder if there's any path to redemption left for her. One thing's for sure, Justin Baldoni isn't backing down, and unless Blake pulls off a miracle, this lawsuit might just mark one of the biggest legal collapses Hollywood has seen in years.